Hey, everybody, welcome back once again to Inside the Matrix. And today we're bringing back our special guest, Jennifer Eason, who was on a couple of weeks ago, and we sort of ran into a time limit issue, which I believe we've rectified today. So let me bring Jennifer. There she is.
Hello.
Okay, welcome back, Jennifer. We're so happy to have you back on the show again.
Thank you.
And this time we won't be running into the
That's okay.
time limit.
Yeah. I understand, it's like we all work through these tech issues and all the platforms are different.
Right, and we're all our own tech team,
Mhm.
host, cast, and crew, all in one, right?
Right. Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
I wanted to, for those of you who have not checked out Jennifer's YouTube channel and her Facebook page, I think I encourage you to do so because she
Thank
puts out a lot of great content, and her memes are spectacular. They are just really.
thank you.
She
I
is becoming a really advanced meme creator, which I really appreciate too. So
lots of
kudos to you, Jennifer. Thank you.
thanks.
So anyway, I wanted to get your take on a few things that are pretty recent. One, there's a rumor going around, and I'll just say this is total speculation, so don't anybody go off the deep end or anything about this. But a couple of people have been talking about it on different platforms that saying that the Supreme Court has decertified the 2020 presidential election. Now, that could be total BS. It may not be. I don't know. But it's an interesting thought, and it's an interesting possibility. What do you think, Jennifer?
Wow. I'll say this. It's in the realm of possibility. I know I've seen comments in, various chats that the Roe v. Wade decision to make it a states' rights issue, uh, that was also part of the election thing, the giving the states more authority and jurisdiction to decide their results without the interference of Washington, D.C. So I am open to the possibility. I logistically still, I can't see certain things yet for how it'll work out with the people that we see. They're just, so sensitive to truth. They don't have an appetite for truth. So I'm thinking about how we deal with these people. I know it's above my pay grade, but just it's interesting just to think about it from the logistics. So that's
Oh,
my
yeah.
concern, of course. I feel that everything that's been done in the dark is coming to the light anyway as things are unfolding. So that's part of one of the big things that has to be addressed. A lot of people are not going to come out to vote if this is the kind of stuff that happens. I mean, it's taken a lot of faith out of the system for a lot of people. So that has to be addressed. I mean, logistically and logically, it has to be addressed. So I know something has to happen, but time wise, I don't know how that works out. So if they have done it on a Supreme Court level, that is interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a possibility. And I would just say personally, I'm hoping that it's true because the evidence that I've seen, it seems overwhelming that this was absolutely a non let's see, how can we say this without being banned by YouTube when this goes up? Not exactly a straight and fair type of production. How about that? Is that vague enough?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. And then another thing going on is the Georgia Guidestones. Now, some people out there may not know what the Georgia Guidestones are. Um, they are, I think it was constructed in 1979, if I'm correct. It's a stone structure that has sort of a Ten Commandments kind of a thing carved into it from the World Economic Forum deep state cabal point of view. And one of the things that is carved in stone there is that the Earth, the population of the Earth should be maintained at 500 million people, which should mean, the people that constructed this thing think we should get rid of over 90% of the population of the world. Now, how would they do that? Well, I don't know. Maybe some of the things that they've tried to pull off recently might enter into that. But a lot of people took a direct offense to that, and of course, myself included. And to see that somebody took the initiative to bring it down and blow it up, at least blow up one section of it, which made it structurally not sound, and apparently they took down the rest of it. I think that's great. I really do. I love it. What do you think, Jennifer?
Well, when I initially heard about it, I took the comedic side of just interpreting it for myself. Just kind of funny.
Oh, wait a minute. Do you have your meme handy? Can you share that with us?
Do I? I'd have to look. I'd have to look for it.
Oh my gosh! If you could find that, that was one of the funniest ones I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's like I found the humor because that's just how this clown world upside down type of reality is, ever since Joe Biden assumed the power of this nation. It's just seemed to become more, as you could see, just absurd. So the stones are absurd to me because I was actually going to make a trip there. Just a friend of mine was like, let's go and just check it out. But I happened to call the town. I figured, let me pick a church and I'll call someone and just get a feel for what the locals would say about these stones. And I talked to actually a woman. She was at a church and worked in the administrative office of a church. And she was so kind, really sweet lady. And she told me that, she didn't see it as a big deal. She was like, it's just some stones, some rocks. And I was thinking, okay, just pleasant conversation, but she played it down and I didn't know the proportion of these stones, Jimmy. I thought they were tall, and I happened to ask her, well, what's it like when you're driving around? Do you see them, when you're driving around? Do you have to get closer? Because I was thinking, do they look like a skyscraper in this town? And she said, oh no, they're just like, I think she said maybe 4 or 5, no, not 8 feet or 9 feet, something like that, or 10, 11, something like that. Nothing really big. Like it, when you take a picture and you make it dramatic, you don't really have a feel for it. And it's in an open field. So when she told me that, I was thinking, this is a weird monument. And I don't know, just the things that are on it. When you read it, to be honest, the part that talks about the population, that was the thing that's nefarious about the stones. But a podcaster that I was watching, he literally read the other parts of the one in English, and he was just challenging everybody. He was like, does this sound bad as I read it? And it was like, oh my God, I was just thinking like, wow, it sounds kind of like, because it's talking about nature and being in harmony with nature. So it sounds really like positive, right? The part that has been offensive is that it's talking about a reduction in population. But you know what this guy challenged us with? He said, well, this is actually written for survivors of a cataclysm, like some sort of big event that would actually depopulate the earth. And this is how the people coming out of that disaster would then rebuild civilization. And I was thinking, that's odd. Have you heard that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I've heard that same explanation, and I could see that, but I don't know that it says that anywhere on there, like as a result of blah, blah, blah. These should be the new rules for the world, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, it could be. It's all just very mysterious, and we
That
all
is
have our opinion about it. And we all, speculate on a lot of things in our world because there's so much that we want to know about
right.
everything, right? Where, a lot of us are very curious type people. I mean, I know I am, much to the dismay of my teachers growing up and everything else, and my parents. But
Mhm.
no, we want to know these things, but it's so difficult to really get down to the truth of a lot of stuff because, we've been lied to, that's provable. That part we can
Oh,
absolutely prove that we've been lied to about nearly everything in our world.
yes.
So we like to try and get down to the nitty gritty about things. We try and find out what the root cause is of a lot
Mm,
of things and what the root meaning is a lot of
yeah,
things. But it's
mhm.
difficult.
It
But
is.
I think in some way though, because so many people see that 500 million thing and take offense to it, and rightfully so, because we're not going to kill 90% of the people in this world just to carry that one out.
Right.
Um, it's sort of, it looks like a victory, like a slight little battle victory for
Mm,
the forces of good.
right.
That's kind of way I like to frame it,
Yeah.
whether that's actually true or not. I'm not
No, I
sure.
mean, it's good. That's the thing about this time is a lot of us have come through some fires, some crucibles, and we've gotten to a place where I can rest in the fact that, like you said, we've been lied to about like everything, just about everything. I don't, and it's so disorienting. But there is comfort in, when you're a person of faith. That's where I find my strength. That is a rock that I stand on, which helps me navigate. It's like waters and waves, and every day right now it just seems like something is coming, another wave of something, and it can be overwhelming for some people. But what finding the humor in it is really helpful. But the thing about these guide stones is that the timing is odd, and it's right on the heels of this Roe v. Wade victory for a lot of people on the side of you would say conservatism, as we would think we're good, as the left thinks that they're good, we think we're good, and we tend to be the people of faith on the conservative side. So you know they celebrated a victory and see it as a good thing, and of course the left sees it as all the bad, the opposite. But this victory that is being seen by the side of more kind of the conspiracy crowd and some normies, because they're wondering why this monument, why
Yeah.
it's known, this monument is infamous. People all over the world know about it because in conspiracy circles I've done pieces on it. Everybody's talked about the Georgia Guidestones. So the people that erected this, they knew that this mystery would unfold. I'm sure they understood that people would have this curiosity. It became a tourist spot. People are visiting this weird town 110 miles east of Atlanta. Who would ever know about it? So they are drawing crowds, and I don't know. It is weird how this happened because it also was struck by lightning a bit, ago, and it had a stain on it,
Hmm. Oh,
you
I
know.
didn't realize that part.
Yeah, yeah, and people were I mean, that was all ha ha funny moment when it was struck by lightning. So, it had some notoriety that way. But this here has been a big, I guess, a big laugh, a gaff for the, people that put it up there, and they're seen as bad guys, not good.
Right. And I always think that Ted Turner had something to do with that. I don't know why, but I always feel like he had, he definitely, this was around the time of CNN starting up, I think. And
okay.
He was somebody that had the wherewithal and probably the mindset to do it because he's definitely the globalist type, right?
Oh, he is. Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
I've heard his name attached to it because he talks well, you can look at old talks that he had about overpopulation. So these guys would they say the same thing, Bill Gates is one of those people too, and they just talk and harp about overpopulation and why are they worried about it? It's always wondering, they live in hills and gated communities. Why would overpopulation be such a problem for them? I don't get it.
well, I think they look at it like, a smaller number of people is easier for them to manipulate than a larger crowd,
Okay.
and I'm sure there's in the back of their mind, there's the torches and pitchforks scenario at some point, because that's happened in history a bunch of times, when
Right, right.
the tyrants become
Mm,
overly bearing, more so than usual. At
yeah.
some point, the people are going to push back, and which reminds me, it's very interesting what's happening now in the Netherlands
Mhm.
and Poland. Farmers are really, really pushing back because they've been the government has clamped down on them tremendously,
Mhm.
stifling their ability to produce crops, to get fertilizer, to get access to markets, all these different things, which is all part of the World Economic Forum deep state plan to destroy Western civilization and then come in and install their one world government thing. But it's it's plainly obvious what these people are trying to do, but
Right.
they are getting hammered. It's so awesome by the farmers in the Netherlands, and also the farmers in Poland are also picking up on this. So
Really? That's great. That's
I
great.
hope it spreads. I hope it keeps going because, that's the way we stopped all this nonsense. And we have to create enough awareness. That's why you and I know, we've talked about this before. That's why we do what we do, because we're trying to create enough awareness
Right.
to where people understand that we have the power. We are the ones that have the power.
That's
We have allowed a small, tiny, tiny group of people to completely manipulate us
yeah.
from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Mhm.
And once we realize that if we stop cooperating with their stuff,
Mhm.
they're done. They're
Yeah.
just done,
Yeah.
So that is one of my goals, in my own tiny little way here on this show, to try and share that idea with people that we do have the power. It reminds me of that. I don't know if you've seen that little cartoon where there's an edge of a cliff and
Mhm.
there's a plank going on the cliff, and
Mhm.
at the end of the plank over the cliff is a guy like a politician that's standing at the podium, right? And then on the other end of the plank are a bunch of people standing holding the plank in place. So
Right.
and he's like, "Hey, this is the way it's gonna be, and I'm telling you, all this stuff." And all they have to do is step off the plank, and the
Wow.
game is over. So, I mean, that really illustrates. I think I put it in one of my music videos too. That
That's
because
good.
it's such a good illustration of the power that we, the people, have.
Yeah.
Imagine if they, start with mandates again, and people just go, "Nah, not doing that."
Oh, yeah.
What are they gonna do?
Exactly.
They can't stop in this country. They can't stop 300 million people from not cooperating of anything.
True.
So, I always ramble on about these things, but I think that's just really important for people to understand that we are the ones that have the power if we just exercise it,
That's right. Absolutely. I like those kind of illustrations because sometimes it's hard to break out of that cycle of thinking that these powers that be are so omnipotent, but we have to wake up to what they're doing because they continue to attempt to divide us, and that is becoming old. I'm hoping I see the ultimate division is the gender division. That seems to be the one that they're focusing on real hard at this time because I think the race thing has fizzled out and I don't know. I don't see them getting anything um going. like they did with the Summers of Love, the George Floyd. That's over. They've played that
They
card. And
played that card. Yeah.
yeah, I've been looking at it from a sort of strategic thing. And this is something that if you listen to certain spheres, like they have that manosphere and the woman sphere, and that has informed me to know that the racial card can't be played anymore because of the simple fact that they are focused on this gender war. And when you think about it, they've shot themselves in the foot because they've divided like all the genders, like racially. You know what I'm saying? So black women and black men are so divided. I see it all across the races, but it's really heated in the, as they call, black community. And there is no black community. I mean, that's a farce in itself. But they have, I call it a collective. It's not a community. So they've divided the black women and the black men. And it's this, on the social media platforms. So think about it this way, Jimmy. When you had the Eric Gardner, the George Floyd, and say even the Breonna Taylor, okay, you need the opposite gender to care, right? So they will hit the streets and they'll be offended. You see, if you've divided them, you get you see where I'm going? How are the women, if we're talking about the black community, how are the black women going to care now that you're going to have another police shooting of a black man?
Yeah,
See,
if they've already pitted them against each other.
they've
Yeah.
pitted them. And see, they've pushed the gender thing so far in the black community that they have shot themselves in the foot. And now the racial thing is not effective because the black women are so in some of these spaces at odds. They're talking about aborting a baby if they find out it's a black boy. That's how far it's gone.
That's
so
crazy.
Isn't it? And then you have on the opposite end, you have black men that are just so, like, they're saying they're finished with black women. They want to just deal with other races of women. So they have divested. And then you have the women who have divested who say they're only dating opposite, just other races of men. They won't date black men anymore. So this is now hit a crescendo. Now, you see, if they try this thing again with a BLM offensive,
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. And so it's already, and they've already said it. Like, they've been saying it since 2020. The black women are like, we're not coming out anymore. If you all get shot by any cops, it's on you. It's not our problem. And they're putting comments in chats like this. So I said, wow, something has changed. So
yeah, I agree with you. And something else that I've noticed lately too is that there are gay groups coming out against like women in sports and against the transgender thing and against pushing this whole drag queens, entertaining in elementary schools and that kind of stuff. They're coming out against it. So, boy, that is really throwing a monkey wrench.
That is amazing. That shows you they have lost the narrative because I even subscribe to a transgender woman that has a YouTube channel and she is holding the line. It's amazing. And she has other people that come on as guests and they're all from that community and they do not tolerate, they're not on board with what's happening in that supposed community. See, that's why they keep saying community. They like to have these aggregated groups that they can give the identity to and say, well, this is what you're supposed to be mad about. This is what you like. This is, they have a whole marketing, profile for this group. I mean, you could see it I was at a store and they had a section of Pride products for pets. So you have, like dresses with the rainbow stuff and toys for your cat and dog for Pride Month. And nobody bought it. It was on like clearance. So you can see how so much of it wasn't even purchased because I believe that the LGBTQ or RST, whatever group,
LMNOP.
community, I don't think that they are a part of that community. It's kind of like how people are just tired of being clumped and they're individuals and they don't want to be told that they have to think one way. So they are rebelling and they're getting out of that matrix. So I respect it wholeheartedly, especially when they feel the same way about protecting children and
Yeah,
they
I
are
love that.
calling
Yeah.
it out. I love it. They're calling it out. They're saying this is grooming. This is not this is not safe. This is not good. And why should children be exposed to adult themes? Like
Right.
it's
It's
I
just wrong. That is totally grooming, and
um,
I really respect people that are coming out with this
yes.
this moral stance because it's so necessary.
Mhm.
And it the idea that the mainstream media wants to give you the impression that this whole group that is, this LGBT whatever is some kind of massive organization, in the country and in the world, when in fact it's a very tiny minuscule fraction
Mhm.
of our whole nation or the world of
Right.
people who have this sort of mindset. So they've created this really false thing that it's some kind of big, huge movement, when in
Yeah.
fact it's not. The
No,
vast majority of people are just not there. And now we're seeing the demonstration of that, which,
yeah.
which is
That's it.
great.
And
And
yeah, yeah. They even expose that the ones that are, part of the if you say the truther community that would be considered in that community, yeah, they give the stats too and they say no, it's not so common for somebody to want to go all the way through and transition. That's not like happening in droves. It used to be just a really minor amount of people, and they didn't make a big deal about it because when they did transition they lived in that gender. So to make a big deal like and always want to talk about this, that would put too much attention on their lives because they're normal people. Basically, they're not like trying to be advocating for things like this. They want to live a life that's quiet in their truth, as they say, so that
have privacy. They want
yeah,
privacy, right?
privacy. So when they're working, because I tell you one thing, Jimmy, I was going to an employee, like it was like one of those, when you do your health screening,
Mhm.
and I didn't mean to hear this, but I overheard what I thought to be a woman, she was also their employee, and I heard one of the healthcare people ask that question about gender, and I heard her say that she had transitioned. And, I didn't mean to hear it, but I was so amazed because I would have never known, like, never known. She was in scrubs, just looked like a regular nurse. And here it is. If I hadn't heard that, I wouldn't have known. And that's how it has been for probably so many people, that it's best left as a private medical thing between them, their doctor, and their family, like whoever is in their lives that they know intimately. That's between them and that's their business. But
Sure.
this whole thing of broadcasting this stuff, I think people are really they're burned out,
Yeah, and I think people are sick of this whole agenda being pushed on children too, and as
yeah,
if they are able to make a decision like that.
exactly.
As far as I'm concerned, people have the right to do whatever they want. As long as they're not harming other people.
Mhm.
Do your sexual orientation, whatever it is that you want to do with your life, that's your business. That's nobody else's business. But when you have government trying to impose certain viewpoints and indoctrinate children along those lines, that's where we have to
Yeah,
definitely draw the line. This should be a private thing that individuals can decide for themselves when they're adults,
right.
not for children. This is not something you push on children. A 5-year-old is not ready to decide what gender.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just so over the top. It's unbelievable how they get away with even talking about something like that. That's
It's
how crazy it is.
it's so unethical. by all standards. And that's what's so good about these transgendered people. And I could be wrong with all the terminology, and I'm tired of being told that we have to use all this terminology. I'm over it. I don't care if
But wait, Jennifer, your pronouns are.
yeah, the pronouns and all. I'm tired of it. I was tired of it before they even got it started. But it's
My
like,
pronouns are "Hey you."
yeah, yeah, leave me alone, government. Those are my private pronouns. Leave me alone, government. So, but they were basically saying that when they made their decisions, it was hard, and sometimes you have to go through psychiatric, care to make sure, like, they didn't get to make the decision willy-nilly. In other words, they had to go through a process, they were saying, because these are older trans people, and they said it wasn't something that you would, I guess, regret, because you're really, really thinking about it and going through it and taking your time, and you're waiting till after puberty. That's really important, because what they're doing to block puberty, that is very dangerous, for a person's body and development. So that is so unethical for anybody to want to push this. And what's happening, and they are tracking this, and I love that they're tracking the numbers of people that are going for like they want to undo the surgery. So reassigning their original gender. So
Is that even possible though? I mean, if you've transitioned to become a female, I don't even know how that's possible to go back
very
to.
difficult. I mean, this is the problem. If they have had, as they call, top or bottom surgery, these are permanent surgeries. I mean, I've met people that have gotten the top surgery, women transitioning to men, and they've had the mastectomies. So that's the part of, you want to make sure this is really, really an informed decision. They've really worked out a lot to make sure they're, not going to change their mind sometime later, because you're actually taking a part of your body away. So that's one of the things that, I don't see how you can't reverse that. The hormonal thing, you can begin to, I guess, try to level it out. But one of the older trans men, I believe, he was saying that there's no way to go back from where he is, how many years he has been in it. He has been on testosterone and all of he says that length of time that he's been doing it, like he's been like from the 70s or something. And he says that your body basically will, it
adapts to that.
Got a beard, full beard and everything. He's like, if he stopped and wanted to go back, it's not going to happen. It won't be comfortable. Maybe he could do the reverse hormones, but the beard and the mustache are going to continue coming in. And that's going to be an issue if when you think about it. So people are not, this is the issue I have. First of all, I'm with you. Children should not be encouraged to think about this is just something kids don't normally do without the influence and the informed consent. That's all I've ever said about everything, even the abortion issue. Informed consent, because if people really knew what is involved, they would not make these decisions. I promise you, if they really knew. And I've taken care of patients who have had regret from trans surgeries, and it's been horrific what they've gone through. They don't tell people that side of it.
No, because that wouldn't serve the agenda. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about something else and that's the financial situation in our world. Now, it's my understanding that Social Security has been so tapped into and stolen from, the whole Social Security fund, that one of the reasons why the tyrants that be, the politicians around the world that are sold out, want to have all these distractions
Mhm.
including possible war or supporting the war that's going on in Ukraine,
Mhm.
is that they need a way out of having to fulfill the obligations of taking care of people on Social Security. And another thing is to conveniently, let's say, dispose of some of those elderly people who may tap into those resources and those benefits that they have coming to them.
Mm.
Uh, this is another really nefarious thing that's going on, and a lot of financial people have talked about this. That the deep state is realized that they've overspent and they've overprinted to such a degree that they really can't recover from it.
Right.
So I wanted to get your take on that. Have you looked into, the financial situation? We know we have a fiat currency, which is based on nothing. We know it's controlled and they create money out of thin air. The Federal Reserve and the World Bank and all that, they totally manipulate and control money for their own benefit.
Mhm.
So in some ways, if that does go down, it would be good, but only if it's quickly replaced by something that will help all of us. So
Mhm.
any thoughts on that?
Well, I am realizing that, they have gotten themselves in such a deep hole financially. Yeah, it's insolvent. It's no redeeming this economy with the currency and debt-based, currency. You can't continue that. How long? So, basically the party's over and they knew it would be over. They've just been buying more time and the clock is just, they've run out the clock. So anything they're doing, the desperate attempts to distract people from that collapse, is what a lot of people just see the things for what they are, and them wanting to get their way, their type of reset and new world order is just not going over well. I guess, they've announced that there is a new world order and they're moving everybody to a like cryptocurrency type of thing and metaverse businesses, and you can become a new, I guess, a new type of person in a metaverse type of environment. So it's like that dystopia that they've, always talked about in movies. We're seeing it, sort of unfold. I don't see how far they could get with it. I don't foresee, because a lot of people are unplugging and creating parallel economy. Now, in terms of the older people have to be very vigilant and their families to protect them at this time, because yeah, there is an agenda on that end to do the euthanasia. You have, I've never been fond of, well, no, I can't say never. I was initially fond of the movement of hospice. I thought it was, a good thing until I reevaluated what is hospice. And me personally, I have my opinions about it, because I've talked to people that have just been very honest and they've told me that they want to, euthanize the older people
Push
because
them on through.
yeah,
Right.
he told me straight out. He's like, they're a drain on the system. So they don't see it that way, that these are valuable people who have made it possible through their work and efforts to bolster this economy and this, country. They don't see it that way. They just see them as a problem. So we saw what happened, 2020. I'll tell you, I could tell you a lot of stories about that. Most of my patients are like 90s, 80s and 90s up in New York. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw them definitely getting a whole generate, that particular generation was exiting
And
in
look how many got shoved into, very unhealthy situations where they would, putting sick people into nursing homes and things like that, it really escalated that whole idea,
yeah.
which is so insane. And again, all these things, more people have to have an awareness of this, because once we do, again, it'll empower us to not cooperate with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And of course, in 2020 we saw the largest. I can't emphasize this enough. the largest wealth transfer in history.
Wow.
So people need to understand that. What does that mean? It means that when they shut down all the small businesses, all the big box corporations, the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Costco, all these stores had record profits. So all that money got funneled into the big corporations that are in bed with the big media, with big pharma, with politicians, everything. They all padded their pockets. So that was definitely part of the whole agenda that we see. Now,
Mhm.
you mentioned something else too when you said meta, and that is another thing that's part of the agenda that we see occurring now is they want more people to get into this virtual world. So, once you've checked out of the real world, and then you're in this virtual world. It's a nothing burger, right? It's nothing. It's a fantasy. So,
Mhm.
can you imagine, all these people on the guaranteed income, right? So
Mhm.
they just, they pay, they get their food and they get their rent just enough to survive,
Mhm.
and they sit around all day in their underwear with these goggles on, having these fantasy, experiences in the meta world. I mean, that's what they would love to see happen. You
Oh,
know,
they love it. And some people are signing up for that kind of
yeah,
life. So it's going to be a choice some people will make. It's unreal.
yeah, it's just so insane to me. It's beyond belief to me. But like you said, a lot of people are just buying into this, especially the younger generation that was raised on video games and
Mhm.
having their faces stuck in computers
Mhm.
and phones and you know uh, tablets since they were little kids. So
Right.
to them, it seems somewhat normal, right? To
Well,
this
yeah.
virtual world.
Yeah. And the, increase in depression and the way that the identity of young people, it's never been more confusing to be a young person. I can't imagine coming up in this day and age. I feel like I had a good childhood in terms of I was the generation that you had to get us to come in. We would be outside playing. We didn't want to be inside. And even when I was inside, I was doing arts and crafts. I was always, involved in things like that or reading a book or, anything like that, but just using my imagination. So these children have been given all of this technology and then they are cut off in a sense from having that healthy play that you have in your childhood, so they're not developing the same way. And I believe emotionally it has an impact where we see the skyrocketing, you know, unaliving, that young people are engaged in. And it's really sad, because we weren't we weren't, we didn't have to live that life, and it's not fair. And I really have a heart for these younger people because of that. We have to stand
Yeah.
up for them, and they do have to just engage with a more natural, children need to be out there learning how to farm, how to milk a cow, how to do all of these natural things. They just have to unplug from this stuff, and it would be nice to get a vacation from it. How people, say there's going to be a blackout or whatever. I don't mind if the media, not so much the electrical grid, but just the media, just if people could get a break from that and just get back to a natural human rhythm again and just become more local,
Hmm.
it would be amazing.
Oh yeah, and kids have missed out on the social interaction of playing with other kids outside. I know you mentioned too in your childhood. Mine was the same way. I mean, when I was 10 years old, me and my buddies would get on our bikes in the Saturday morning, and we would ride for miles. We would go all over the place. We'd go, well, let's go here, or let's go there, and as long as we were back by dark for dinner, everything was fine, and nobody worried about a thing. It was it was great. It's not the case anymore, and then the kids are coddled. Of course, young boys playing. playing baseball. Oh, well, just don't keep score anymore because it's just not fair to the people. And, we don't want anybody to feel like they lost a game or anything like, all this kind of nonsense. Those are the kind of things that build character, when you get involved with playing sports and other group activities, or, whether it's doing artful stuff, dancing, playing music, all these other things. These are all character building experiences that kids need to have. But when they're just shoved in this virtual world, they miss out on all of that stuff, and they don't have the social skills, and they get out and they go to apply for a job, and they're just lost. They don't even know how to talk to people.
No, yeah.
And I see that all the time, and I'm
Yeah.
amazed. I'm absolutely amazed,
It's amazing. I had a friend who was in management at the time that the millennial generation was starting to enter the job market. And she said she had to go to training classes and she had to learn how to address that generation. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, I have to be sensitive to the fact that a lot of them may, like if you give them a employment review, their mother might call you. Can you imagine? I was like, she said, oh no. And we have to, be sensitive to that and take the call. And
oh my
yeah,
God.
she said that was happening.
You hurt their feelings if you were honest with them about their work ethic. Right. Well, you haven't done any work in 4 days. That could be a problem. Well, you hurt my feelings when you said, come on.
And then your mother calls.
And then mom's going to call and say, you hurt my son's feelings when you told him.
Why did you give him that review? He's been working really hard, told me. And you have to talk to her on the phone. I was amazed. I said, yeah, we're in a different age. We are not in Kansas anymore.
We're in the Twilight Zone. We're beyond the Twilight Zone. I mean, this is, more bizarre than any Twilight Zone could ever be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they say it's more like this, like, what is it, Westworld?
Westworld, yeah. Yeah.
I've seen a couple of like episodes, and that's a pretty like mind bender kind of show.
Oh yeah, that sort of reminds me when you mentioned Westworld. Is there's another series that I'm not sure what platform it's on. It's called Upload, and it goes into that whole transhumanist agenda thing where if you're going to die, you can transmit your essence, basically your soul, and including all your memories and everything like that, and your whole field into an artificial sort of meta world, right?
Oh.
And you have a new avatar in this meta world which you inhabit.
Wow.
And then you have a handler which sort of takes care of you in orienting you to your new world that you now live in.
Oh.
And it's kind of an interesting concept, but it's not something that any of us should ever aspire to, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
We want to be organic beings. We came into this world. A lot of us, came into this world for a reason, and we have a good idea of what that is. So we're doing our best to try and fulfill that reason. But the human experience, it's finite. At least every life is. So we should, try and make the best of it. But we have to be aware enough to see what's happening. We've got to be able to, raise our consciousness enough to get beyond the propaganda, get beyond the programming that we've all been experiencing our entire lives. And I always keep coming back to that because it's so vitally important. If we don't get to that collectively as human beings, we're just going to be slammed down, as slaves and energy generators for the elite forever. I mean, it's about time we just say, we've just had enough of this and stand up, as sovereign divine beings that we are, recognize that and stand up for ourselves. And that's my bottom line for everybody. I want to see the whole world in that situation. And I'm always encouraged when I see people standing up. And I guess what happens, the more they put the screws to us, the more they try and dumb us down and stifle us and lock us down and all that stuff, it kind of accelerates the whole process of people waking up. So in that sense, I think, it's speeding up our awareness as well as, them totally showing their hand. They are, they're showing their ass at the same time. They're out there, telling us, oh, you will own nothing and you will be happy. No, no, Klaus, that's not the case. And if we
He's
have
like
anything to say about it, you will own nothing. You will be in jail and you will not be happy.
he's like the perfect villain. Like he
Isn't
seems
he?
like he came straight out of Central Casting, right? It's like
Oh yeah,
his
they couldn't
voice.
have picked a better Nazi. This guy, he's like the perfect stereotype. And his dad was actually one of Hitler's main Nazis. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect, right? This guy and that psychopath sidekick of his,
Oh yeah.
Harari.
I mean, they're like from a movie, like a Doctor Evil movie.
Yeah.
So crazy.
See, we have these Marvel comic movies, right? And in the theaters, but we also have the Marvel comic movie of the world play. It's the same thing.
It's a different stage.
Oh my God. Yes.
Gosh, yeah.
The world is a big stage and we're all players in it. But anybody listening out there, none of us have all the answers, but we have, I think so many of us have good intentions. We have love in our hearts and we want to see everybody thrive and survive and flourish. And we want to see cooperation and love and joy in the world. And we're just not going to have it if we cooperate with these psychopaths, and these, whatever you want to call them, and whatever despicable names you can think of, that's what they basically deserve for what they're doing to us. But we have to stand up and we have to realize who we are, and then we can create the world that we want. So any parting thoughts, Jennifer? I would much appreciate, and also let people know where they can find you, because they've got to check out your memes and your shows because they're really good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, the only parting words that I can think of right now is just to encourage people to know that a lot of that projected evil that these people want to instill fear, a lot of it, I am starting to understand it to be a lot of projection, and we have to fight against falling into fear. We have to find ways to avoid that. And it's different for everyone. But even content that could keep you more lighthearted and laughing at the absurdities, it might help, or just unplug completely and get into a natural way of living. But I just encourage people to start unplugging in little ways, like, start making things that you don't normally make, that you don't have to rely on going to the store to buy. It's a lot of things you could start doing, making your own whatever, and getting off of their system, just really, like, not in a panicked way, but just a nice flow, and just slow our living down. And we have to be local. That's the way to do it, is like, just think locally. The world, is a, it's a big realm, but the local, more organic engagement, I believe, is going to help us thrive. And whatever they're doing with the big food processing, think about it this way: it's better to go local and just really develop a local community of exchange. And that's where it's just going to be a better transition, because we are transitioning. They're collapsing, that system. We can't, it can't be propped up anymore. But don't grieve it, just move forward. We're moving forward. Can't go back there.
I love it. I love it. Okay, tell people where they can find you on both YouTube and Facebook.
Okay. On YouTube, you can look up Jennifer Eason, the Patriot. And that's my main channel. I've had to go, like, a lot of channels, but that's the one I mainly upload to. And on Facebook, I just Jennifer Eason, and Telegram the same. On Instagram, or as Paul Romano calls it, Instagool. I'm under my name, and Jenny the John is like the handle, but my name, I think you could find me under that. So those are all the places that I hang out on the interwebs. But thank you so much, Jimmy. It's been fun talking to you.
Oh, absolutely. Always a pleasure to talk with you. And we'll check in a couple months or so, and we'll see how things are going, right? Because it could get really crazy here, crazier.
A lot happening in a little bit of time. All right. Summer is still here. Yeah. So absolutely.
Okay. All right, everybody out there. We'll see all of you inside the Matrix. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.